What's going on, y'all? My name is Tommy. Welcome back to the channel. Time for another episode of Min-Maxing for Fun and Profit. Today, out of Secrets of Magic, we're breaking out the Summoner. If you're liking what you're seeing, remember to like, subscribe, ding the bell, stay caught up on all your stuff. Remember that Patreon gets you access to a Google Sheet where this and a billion other builds are put together, as well as a bunch of other cool stuff for you. Now, let's dive in. Okay, so today the goal is to take two things, put them together, make a stronger whole, which is really what the Summoner does so well. Have a class that can cast a lot of tech things, do a lot of really cool out-of-combat things, literal tricks up their sleeve, while simultaneously having that extra bit of punch in the form of the Eidolon. As ostensibly every summoner in the game, we are mostly running around the act together action, allowing us to get a little bit of extra action economy out of both ourselves and our connection to, in our case, the first world, because we will be choosing the Fey Eidolon. The primary reason we are doing so, the primary reason we're doing this is not just for access to primal magic, but this also gives us access to spells from the enchantment and illusion school that appear on the arcane spell list. Leaning in farther to the enchantment shenanigans, today we're rolling up an Empty Sky Kitsune. This grabs us Kitsune spell familiarity, which lets us cast either Daze, Forbidding Ward, or Ghost Sound. And for our background, we're going to go with Otherworldly Mission. This gives us a special ability once per adventure, which is a very weird way to phrase that. That might be once per session, that might be once per book in an adventure path, that might be once per campaign. Work with your GM before you commit to knowing just how often you can do horrible, terrible things to people with this. You can ask the voice you believe to be a deity, give you orders, and get some kind of instruction. There's no explanation. It usually isn't safe, but it's usually interesting, and it's just a very interesting, hey, DM, what should I do next? Hey, DM, get me in trouble right now. That sounds like a great idea. For our starting ability scores, we're looking at a strength of 10, a dex of 12, a con of 16, because we're cutting our HP two ways, right? A wisdom of 12, and a charisma of 18. Now let's look at the feat. At level 1, we'll take expanded senses to give our Eidolon low light vision, dark vision, and scent, because we're trying to do a lot of tech things as well as just beat people up with our Eidolon. So probably the skirmisher and not the trickster, a little less sprite, a little more wild hunt this go around. And making sure we can move around in the dark and it can see in the dark and it can smell invisible things that are tracking us while we're invisible, so on and so forth. It's just good tech to have. Additionally, for being a Fey Eidolon, our Fey gains magical understudy right out the gate, learning 2 cantrips of the primal tradition as well as Fey gift traits. At level 2, we'll take Unfetter Eidolon, which gives us the Unfetter Eidolon link spell, which allows our Eidolon to go farther for a minute when we cast this. Again, this seems relatively innocuous and ungood, but it does a lot of really fun stuff with our later spells, and it gives us a very big go-wide strategy that allows us to send our Eidolon into harm's way without, strictly speaking, sending ourselves. As all of these builds are, this will be free archetyped, because why wouldn't you? Seriously, you should. It's really cool. The first of our archetypes will be the Horizon Walker. You know what terrain you need to choose favorite terrain in. You get a big circumstance bonus to your travel speed. At level 4, we'll grab Tandem Movement, a tandem trait for one action, both you and your Eidolon either burrow, climb, fly, or swim. And from Horizon Walker itself, acclimatization. In your favorite terrain, you gain resistance equal to half your level to all environmental damage and are affected by temperature effects as though they were one step less severe. When other creatures follow the expert, they also get that part. Is it crazy? Maybe. It kind of depends on the way you play. This build definitely wants to be very open, very solve the problems the way we want to, as enchanters and illusionists often are. So like if you need to sleep in the forest in the snow all night, this could, help you not die horribly. Then at level 6, we'll grab Surefoot on our class features side to give us a +2 circumstance bonus to skill checks to move within your favorite terrain, such as acrobatics checks to balance on ice, athletics to swim in rough water, flying in windy conditions, da-da-da-da. And then next up, since now that's 2 feats and we should be able to qualify on out, from Grand Bazaar, the Captivator dedication. This lets us choose 2 cantrips from the occult list. We gain access to the cast a spell activity and can cast these spells as occult innate spells. We're trained in occult spell attack rolls and DCs. If we have a hand free, we can replace material components with somatic components. It lets us, down the road, do even more fun stuff with the spells we want to cast at people. Hulking Size is next to turn our Eidolon into a permanently large creature. Fun. Basic Captivator spellcasting gives you a first level occult spell from either the enchantment or illusion school. We can cast it innately. At level 6 we gain a second, and at level 8 we gain a third. So by the time we're taking this, we're already all 3 of those. At level 10 for one action, Transpose. Literally lets you just swap places with your Eidolon. Are you being attacked? Would you prefer your Sylvan monstrosity be attacked? There you go, there it is. Alongside this, reactive charm. They really wanted you to be able to use your enchantment spells in combat, I can tell. As a reaction, when you are the target of a spell or attack, you can cast any first level enchantment spell that normally takes 2 actions or fewer to cast. This takes effect before the triggering spell or attack, and if the attacker is affected by your spell, it can make different decisions. So like if you charm them and they become friendly, they might be like, oh, maybe not attack you because you're friendly. Or other spells as well, talk about it later. The attacking creature must be in range of the spell. If your spell requires targets, they must be a valid target. It only affects one, even if this would normally affect an area. Oftentimes this happens to our enchanters, right? When it comes down to combat, we just can't do anything. This helps us do the thing we want to do in a really, really cool control castery kind of way. It's too bad you can only do this the once per day. Towering Size is next to make a huge Fey. I am completely at a loss as to what a huge Fey might be. And then one more from our Horizon Walker, now that we qualify for it, Wild Strider, which gives us the ability to ignore all non-magical difficult terrain. Greater difficult terrain becomes merely difficult terrain, and additional benefits for favored terrain based on the terrain you chose with favored terrain. Again, we kind of want to be out in the woods doing scary, like Appalachian Mountains, hillbillies things. The hills have eyes, and they have the Fae as well. But Summoner's Call as a reaction. If your Eidolon is manifested, when you, your Eidolon, take damage from a foe or hazard, your Eidolon teleports to an open space adjacent to you. Nothing personal, kid. We'll follow that up on our other side with Effortless Captivation. A free action when your turn begins, you immediately gain the effects of the Sustain a Spell action, which you can use only to extend the duration of an enchantment or illusion spell. You know, because who likes concentrating on that scene of where definitely the party isn't hiding, right? Who's got the time for that? Nobody. For any other spells you might want to keep up, Effortless Concentration on the summoner side for like Lightning Storm, for example, if you really just want to zap people. Alongside Expert Captivator spellcasting for even more occult spells, also bumping our DCs up to Expert. Then Glider form going into Airborne form on our class feat side, because if you made it this far, why not be able to fly forever? Then the terrifying Look Again on the Captivator side. If your next action is to cast an innate enchantment or illusion spell and it fails to affect anyone, you do not lose the spell. You must use the same number of actions to recast the same spell your following turn. If you can't or choose not to, you waste those actions, but keep the spell. After the second casting, you lose it no matter what happens, but this is real good when you need them to fail a save and the DM is just cheating with his dice, rolling well. Then lastly, after that, Master Captivator spellcasting for, you guessed it kids, even more occult things. The skill feats are up to you. For our Ancestry feats, Kitsune Lore gets us trained in Diplomacy and Deception, 2 things we're probably going to use a lot, as well as indeed the lore of the Fox folk. Then Kitsune Spell Mysteries. Since we qualify for this for being an Empty Sky Kitsune, we choose Bane, Illusory Object, or Sanctuary. We can cast this as a first level Divine Innate spell once per day. Shifting Faces allows us to turn into different people as a transmutation, not an illusion. It's real good. Then that good old Fox trick to free action, create a diversion, conceal an object, or hide. Everybody becomes immune to this for 24 hours, but if you really need to make everyone flat-footed or disappear, that's how you do it. Then Kitsune Spell Expertise. Choosing Confusion, Death Ward, or Illusory Scene. During daily prep, we can cast these as 5th level Divine Innate spells once per day. Essentially, this character, though our arcane spells are treated as primal, we basically have all 4 traditions in-house. I literally just realized that. Nice. Then Incredible Initiative, Toughness, Diehard, Fleet, Canny, Acumen, choosing Reflexes on the general feats side. For our magic stuff today, the whole build around this, I did this in the playtest. I think I talked about this in another video. It bears repeating because I think it's really cool. Tree shape in an area where trees are basically gives you an out for 8 hours and is a really, really cool get out of jail card for us and a really good get ready to ambush someone card for us. Unfetter your Eidolon, sneak one direction as the Eidolon draws everyone's attention, or if you can live with your Eidolon being in normal range, do that. Disappear around the corner, cast Tree Shape, and turn into a large tree for 8 hours. You can't do anything else, but you can see the world around you. Fruit don't talk, Fruit just listens and waits, and presumably isn't killed by the things trying to murder you when you cast this. It's a very good, I'm a tree, please leave me alone. Or again, hey everyone, let's chase the Fey creature into the forest. Oops, even better if you have a bunch of primal casters with you who can all just tree shape and then drop out and just conveniently be in flank as the combat starts. Oniric? I think? Yeah, sure. Oniric Mire for 3 actions. An illusion we had already. For 1 minute, out to 120 feet in a 20-foot burst, you make the ground look like it's quicksand. Ground in the area is difficult terrain. Each creature in the area or who enters that area must will save. On a failure, it believes the ground is sucking it down and takes a minus 10-foot circumstance penalty to its speed. On a critical failure, it is also immobilized. In addition to the normal actions to escape, it can will save to try to realize, no, wait, this is an illusion. You need a critical success to fully disbelieve the thing, such as you don't risk a speed penalty or being stuck again. Using the Eidolon as a distraction, again, I really like setting up these spells. Not necessarily outside of combat, but like right when the combat kicks off. And this is a really good control spell. If you have a lot of casters, people with ranged weapons, archers, get everybody good and bogged down in things, to say nothing of if they just get flat immobilized and you can pick them off. Hallucinatory terrain. There are a lot more illusions on the primal list than I ever gave the primal list credit. In a 50-foot burst out 500 feet from you, though it takes 10 minutes to cast, it lasts until the next time you make daily prep. It causes natural terrain to look, sound, feel, and smell like a different kind of terrain. It doesn't disguise any structures or creatures. Anyone who touches it or seeks it can try to disbelieve. Heightening this only up by 1 level can disguise structures or create illusory structures. Not the worst way to ensure that something looks really weird, really different, gives you a place to hide in the form of a tree as everyone is seeking around the corner and into boughs, assuming you're like stealth somewhere. If nothing else, this makes a very flavorful place to lead intelligent people who are real curious at, why does that look different than everything around it? Is this a mirage? No, it's where we kill you. Nature's Enmity. If you get this far up, targeting up to 5 creatures in a 500-foot burst in the battlefield, everyone takes big penalties to their speed. They get attacked by woodland critters. If they're primal casters, they lose things. If they're primal casters with pets, the pets attack them. This is a really cool, really flavorful end of game spell to like summon nature down at people. Is it the most powerful thing in the world? Maybe not, but like this is so cool and definitely gets things done and gets a lot of things done, which is kind of the spirit of a lot of spells in 2nd edition. I really like that. For the charming sides of things, for the things we want to jam at people when we get attacked, charm itself really goes a long way. Someone attacks you, react to this. Of course, the target gets a will save with a +4 if you or your allies recently tried to kick his ass, but if something's being very hostile at you first, pop this off. On a critical success on their save, they are unaffected and aware you tried to charm them. On a success, the target is unaffected, but thinks your spell was something harmless. On a failure, the target's attitude becomes friendly, and it cannot use hostile actions against you. On a critical failure, it becomes helpful. On a critical failure, it attacks its friends. Oops. Fear is a great one for this as well. They attack you, snap your fingers, they will save. This is especially good if you're on offense and you don't want them to have that -4. On a critical success, nothing happens. On a success, they have a -1 on the attack. All the way up to a critical failure's frightened 3 and fleeing for a round, aka instead of attacking you, they run away. Draw Ire is a weird one, but can definitely be fired off in this case. For 2 actions, they would then take 1d10, because you would have to cast it at 1st level, though this heightens by +1d10 at every level. Mental damage to the creature. It then takes a -1 status penalty to attack rolls against things other than you. Will save critical success, nothing happens. On a success, they take half damage and the penalty. It ends at the end of the target's next turn. On a failure, the target takes full damage and the penalty. On a critical failure, the target takes double damage. The status penalty is -2. And yeah, sure, that probably means they're attacking you a lot, Mr. Caster, but worst case, you can run, throw an illusion down, run, turn into a tree, use your giant hit dice to tank for the rogue. It's weird, but it's not bad. Then lastly, Befuddled. It's a will save, lasts for a round. On a critical success, nothing happens. On a success, the target is Clumsy 1 and Stupefied 1. On a failure, the target is Clumsy 2, Stupefied 2. And on a crit failure, the target is Clumsy 3, Stupefied 3, and Confused. Maybe potentially with a nice GM. Again, attacking friends. But failing that, pretty weakened for a round. I really like this. And I really like this build. You can do a lot of real weird stuff with this, and that's even before we talk about your Eidolon and its ability to do magic. Your DCs are going to be higher. The Eidolon is kind of just here to soak up damage and beat up people. Access to many casting traditions, though we reflavor one of them, lets us go very wide in our spell casting and lets us, though we have less spell slots, often have lots of answers to given problems. You just will need to make sure the right spells are in the right places. Like, for example, anything you want to hit someone with Captivator reactions needs to be on the Captivator list. Eventually, we won't have 1st level summoner spells, but using the downtime to feed your Fey or like commune with the eldest or however you want to flavor text learning a spell, the more you get, the more you can do with them. This build definitely wants to be in a party where you at the very least have the downtime to poke at things and it's not necessarily dungeon crawly. Big open battlefields, natural battlefields, you should come out pretty darn good. But that's all the time I have for today. What do y'all think? Are we rolling it up? How do we feel about summoners in Secrets of Magic? Let me know down in the comments. We'll be back at it next week for another episode of Min-Maxing for Fun and Profit. Until then, my friends, we'll see you next time.